Before we go to the discussion, I think all of us here who have been presenting need to recognize that we would not be here without the wonderful audience of students. And I think the students need to be acknowledged that you have taken the time even to stay here until late Friday afternoon. You have had the privilege to listen to what I would say a very classical type of scientific conference and presentations. So I think we should all do an applause to the students here. But nevertheless, although it is 5 o'clock, Friday afternoon, a long time ago I was a student, so I don't exactly remember what were all the attractions that students have on Friday evening. We still have the possibility for academic discussion. So if there might be questions to the panelists, now is the possibility to ask them. And we have Professor Leif Kalev, please.
My question is to Professor Costerbosa. You spoke about Anders, and his thoughts seem to be very much aligned with the industrial society and the industrial revolution. So machines standardizing people in a way, and all related to that. AI is more nuanced here. It does not produce only mechanistic solutions. So we spoke earlier of agency of some kind, or proactive, diverse activities, and so on. So would you somehow develop further the thoughts of Anders for the period of AI, or do you think it fits exactly?
Sorry, no. Okay. Thank you for your question. And first of all, I can say that Günther Anders, in both volumes, and in particular in the second one, but in the first one too, seems so actually, and in an explicit way. For instance, he writes about the artificial announcement. He sees the frontiers of technological progress. And we do not forget that the second volume, for this reason I underline this, the second volume was published in 1980. And his life is a life which covers the entire 20th century. So I think that it is not so far away from our discussion. Anyway, I think that, of course, Anders' volumes and thought is a very, very rich. But, for instance, the idea of the inversion of position between men's and hands, I think that has a lot to do with our discussion. And the other concept, the concept of imagination, related to the capacity of judgment, or to be wise, in connection with, in general, their moral point of view that has to do with law too, I think that is promising. I think that these two books are, of course, they are, the first volume was published in 1956, so it's clear. But anyway, I think that we can find a lot. And it is not so indirect, the relationship between our discussions and points and the fundamental theoretical principles and dynamics he tries to see and to describe in his work. So, thank you.
So I'm looking again at the audience, students. It's an amazing opportunity, but still no students. Please.
Please, I actually would be very interested in hearing students' questions as well. I would rather not take their time.
If here is a professor teaching one of the students, you could even say that we give you extra points for the exam.
Yes, right. If I can talk to one of your professors, I'll do that.
I see some students in my classes. You ask a good question, I give you 25% of the final grade. Just one. Okay.
Suddenly.
What about two questions?
All right, I will save the students then. Jaan Aru talked about the experiment that was done in schools concerning the artificial intelligence, and what was trying to find out is how does the artificial intelligence use affect the students and their skills. Now, if we take this forward to law or courts, then I would ask if a similar experiment would like to be done maybe in court procedures, then in that experiment, who would be the subjects and what aspects of court should be analyzed with the experiment? Thank you.
Was that a question to me? Or?
I think
That's
so.
a question for all of you, if you can answer it.
Well, I am not qualified to speak about law, but one possible sort of experiment you could, I suppose, run is comparing students who acquire legal argumentation skills on their own or debating with other students versus debating a large language model and see what the outcomes are there. Because one of the things that large language models still do to a large extent, and as far as I know, there's no one's successfully come up with a technological fix yet, is that they hallucinate. And on my way here, I was actually thinking, since this is mostly, I'm sort of a fish out of water. I'm a philosopher among legal scholars. I hardly know the law when it comes to jaywalking. But I thought to myself on the way over here that if they were to automate, say, legal advice hotlines, I personally have used them for work-related issues with another employer, for example, in the past. If we were to try and cut corners and automate that out and replace the lawyers or law students who respond to those calls with large language models, I'm not sure that an ignoramus like myself would trust those services anymore. Because because if I'm talking to a law student or a lawyer, not only is there a level of empathy and contextual understanding that they can bring to bear on my ignorant questions, there's also less likelihood that they will fabulate and invent legal precedents and clauses if pushed. Because at the end of the day, current large language models are sycophantic. They tell you what you want to hear. The best comparison I've seen in the literature is that large language models are like sycophantic politicians. They tell you exactly what you want to hear, and if you keep pushing, they'll invent stuff, so long as you, the user, is happy. And as a user in need of legal advice, I'm not sure I'd want to get that advice from someone whose main objective is to make me, the user, happy.
I would second to that. There is one of my good colleagues from Germany has written about the time when he was a PhD student of German law professor who was at that time ad hoc judge at the European Court of Human Rights. It was not the permanent court. And he has disclosed that when the professor went out from the room, they were having certain discussion. As a student, he was curious and he looked what was on the table of the professor. And then he saw there were two draft judgments of the Court of Human Rights, exactly on the same case. One judgment established the violation and the other didn't establish the violation, and there was perfect argumentation on both. So AI can produce also to you the result what you want, I would suppose. But one thing to add is what we cannot deny is that the modern technology can help judges in sorting out comparable cases from the past and present perhaps to the judges what have been the arguments used in comparable cases. But of course, bias can be written here as well.
Yeah, that's true. One of a great use case for currently existing LLM technology is summarizing past cases, summarizing extant texts. Again, you have to have a certain amount of domain knowledge to recognize where it might be fabulating. But for working through large amounts of data, especially precedents, it can save time. Absolutely.
Could I just add on the experiment point, and just by reference to some of the things that were spoken about earlier on today and yesterday about the role of technology in law. I haven't read everybody's footnotes for the presentations, but I think by far the most important analysis of AI and computational tools in law has been done by the research group at the Free University of Brussels under Muriel Hildebrand, and the group is called Cubicle, cubicle.com. Cubicle is an abbreviation for the European research grant, the 5-year research grant that project was based on, counting as a human in the era of computational law. And their typology, where they've tested lots of existing available legal AIs, it is the typology, is excellent, tested by computer scientists and lawyers. And their 3 research reports, the last one just came out this year, even though the research project ended in December of 2023, are absolutely invaluable sources for us to be able to evaluate these supposedly, allegedly useful technologies. And that's an interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary research group. And I think that work is really, really important to our field. And if folks out there, beginning students don't know it, cubicle.com, the reports and everything on there. And there's a fantastic essay by 2 of the Cubicle researchers about the existing legal AIs that hallucinate, make stuff up. Yeah, your lawyer would be disbarred if he or she did that.
Yes, Marina Hildebrand has this advanced ERC grant, which is very significant. Yeah. So, but we should give still the floor to Professor Costerbosa.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. Actually, I wanted to address Professor Lucy. William, I want to, first of all, also second your commendation of that work of Marilla Hildebrand and the like. It is excellent indeed. Now, my question comes to you. I was thoroughly following and enjoying the presentation and the distinction between technical and legal and so on. It was just at the end that I wondered about your proposal. That is the proposal of quantifying agency.
Right.
And my sense was that if we think about quantifying agency, or perhaps quantifying the opportunities for exercising agency, my thought was, sometimes my life has just too many choices. It's just too hard to navigate all those choices. Yeah. I'd rather have less. Yeah. Note, what I want is not more choices. Yeah. I want better choices. Yeah. I don't want more agency. I want better quality agency in two respects, really.
Yeah.
One is I would like to have agency over those areas of my life that are most important to me, right? Or to put it differently, that have the greatest value. I might be wrong about what's important to me, but what have the greatest value? The other is there are areas of life where I don't want more of something. I want my agency recognized in some kind of community. That is the recognition of this. So the quality of the agency has to do with my opportunities for exercising it. The other quality is it's being recognized amongst my fellow members of my community. Law allows that sort of thing in various ways. So I would have thought qualifying agency might be the way we want to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you already have your grade, right? So we have another question from here. 25%. We had a question here, right? Yes. Please. I think we need to have it on the computer. I mean, on the microphone, I'm sorry.
So you put my words in protocol, right? So, okay, I try to be in a role of student, okay? And in this position, I believe I have a human right to cheat as a student. You know, I'm in university, everybody's cheating and gets good marks. I also want to get good marks. But the difference is that some of us as students have access to AI and others not. So my question, if we are reaching the point when access to AI is like was access to internet, it should be a guaranteed right to everybody on this planet in order to be successful, in order to be happy. What do you think about it?
The question is to whom? To whom? Who?
To the panel.
To the panel. William.
Okay, well, I'll just respond to Professor Postema's point and then try and take that one up. So I think you're right. If things work out that way, that's fine. Because I think that's the first objection, right? If we're liberated from mundane agency, if we're able to, in David Runciman's phrase in his recent book, outsource mundane choices, then great. If things work that way, I think that's fine. And who knows? Things might work out that way, right? But it seems to me the drivers of technological management, the facilitators of it, haven't, in many instances, had their users' interests at heart. Susanna Zuboff's story, the surveillance capitalism story, is true as far as I can make out, and I don't have any reason for doubting it, and I don't have any reason for thinking that these large-scale commercial actors are going to change what they do in order to save me from mundane choices. They're going to tell me that everything they offer me is going to be for my benefit. Yeah, every app I can download and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but they want to monitor what I'm doing on my phone, use that, and so on and so forth. So things could work out that way, right? It's obviously an open question. Things could work out well, they could work out badly. I've just got a sneaking suspicion that they might not work out well. But if they do, great. So yeah, I accept your point entirely. On that question, what did you want a fund?
Let's cheat more. Let's cheat more.
Yeah. But my worry is on the basis of the second presentation. That might make us all a bit more stupid. So that's my reservation about that. And that's it. Sorry to be flippant. But
and we do have a question from the student. Yes?
Can I also first address the previous question?
Oh, of course you can. Yes.
One other thing to note here is that making the internet accessible to everyone, especially with the increasingly bloated web applications and websites, has actually already precipitated a clean water crisis in the world, because we need clean water to cool down all the data centers. Now, the energy and water requirements for data centers, so generative AI, are magnitudes larger than running the ordinary internet infrastructure, which means that in order to make that stuff accessible to everyone may entail paying a very high ecological price. And quite frankly, personally, I sometimes wonder whether putting all that CO2 in the atmosphere and using all that drinking water to cool those servers is really worth it for generating lousy AI art and stupid memes.
Yeah.
I mean, I can certainly see use cases for this technology that may benefit the entirety of mankind. We're discovering new chemical elements where AI is facilitating research, pharmaceutical research, etc. But the kind of mundane uses that most average people engage in, where it's like, oh, I don't want to write that essay, let's just generate it, or oh, I can't. I think the best example of a pointless automation was Google's failed Gemini ad, where there was a father and daughter, if memory serves me right, and the daughter wanted to write a letter to her favorite athlete with her father, and her father outsourced writing the letter to a language model, basically disburdening himself of parental duties and the ability to spend time with his child. I think that's about as tone deaf as it gets when it comes to promoting automation and convenience in users' lives. And if the ecological price of that is so high, then I, for one, ask, is it really worth it?
It's not.
And then given the de-skilling issue, is it worth it paying that price so that all of you can cheat more? I don't know.
We have a question over here.
Yes, hi. Can everyone hear me? I think I'm... Yes. So I would follow up on the question of cheating with... this is directed to every professor who is here. In your lectures, in what you teach, how much do you actually see in everyday life students using AI to generate their theses or answering questions? And how, if you reflect and analyze those responses, how much do you see them being accurate? What would you suggest students do instead of cheating or using AI over and over again?
I suppose this conference has really taken quite an unexpected turn towards the end, because it seems to us that after the lunch our students have been obtaining knowledge whether to cheat or not, whether to use ChatGPT or not. And you are still here, so it's a practical value. So, Marina, we can start from you. Do your students cheat and use ChatGPT?
I'm sure. I'm sure.
And what do you do? Do you find it out?
How can you tell?
No, never. So it's very difficult. So it's. But yes, okay.
I could reply to that. I have a story, a very quick story. In my presentation, I showed a thesis which I have advanced, the decrease in universality and abstractness thesis. And I discussed that in my lecture, and I had a true-false multiple choice question about that. I don't exactly remember what it was. But then I had a Moodle exam. I was very stupid. I had a Moodle exam. Of course, some students were using ChatGPT. And the student gave a wrong answer to me about that. And then started to argue. And I asked, how did you get that? The student didn't reply. I posed the same question to ChatGPT. And ChatGPT gave me the same answer as the student had given. But of course, it was my own theory, so I knew it better. But the ChatGPT, I found it that way. Otherwise, I think, unless they forget to take down the sentence, "Thank you very much for this question, I'm happy to help you," it's very difficult to find it out.
I personally have just, for some of my courses, I've removed all written assignments. There are no essays. There are exams and quizzes. There's nothing to write, really. There are multiple choice questions. Especially do that, I teach logic and critical thinking. So since these models are still pretty bad at reasoning, there's nothing really to outsource. You either do the exercise and pass the exam, or you fail. Where I still have written assignments, I allow students to use ChatGPT because there's no way for me to detect whether they do or they don't. And there's no reliable technical means of telling the difference between human-written and machine-generated text, so it's pointless to forbid them from using it or bar them from using it. However, we have this tacit agreement that if you do use it, then reference the use properly in accordance with any of the academic referencing and style guides, whether it's Chicago Manual of Style, American Psychological Association, whatever you prefer to use. And use it like you use any other source, like an encyclopedia or anything else of that sort, where you check the output. I've had a couple of essays that were really lousy, where the student basically took excerpts from a book, pasted it into ChatGPT, gave the prompt that, oh, make it more academic, and then gave me the output. That was painful to read, and it took a while to give feedback and get the student to improve and do better. But I think, first of all, calling it cheating is not exactly correct. It's not cheating. And secondly, taking a reactionary stance where you forbid students from using it is detrimental because, at least for the foreseeable future, even if the AI bubble bursts, which it likely will, the technology won't go anywhere. It will be with you for the foreseeable future. Even if all the cheat GPT and other sort of startups fail, which many of them will, the technology, large language models, still continue, they'll increasingly be integrated into your software, they'll continue to be developed. And you should have, just as you have ability to, or you acquire the ability to use Office software, etc., you should have the ability and the skills to use that software as well, because, well, employers will be expecting that from you.
Yeah. And just to follow up on two points on that. It's not cheating, right? But you should probably credit it. But so, would I know if my students used it? No. How could I? However, there is another way I know. They tell me. So my third-year jurisprudence class last year, for various assignments and whatnot, did dabble with it. And I said, how did it work out? And they said, it was lousy. If you know nothing about the topic, whatever the topic might be, it was presumably some arcane point of legal philosophy. If you knew nothing about the topic, it would be okay. It would be a pretty poor piece of written work were you to assess it or were I to assess it. So they told me they'd used it and thought it was lousy. First point. Second point, I've had it done to me in the sense that the Cubicle folks, when I did a talk there some time ago, ChatGPT'd my talk title. And then gave me the 3 versions. And they were pretty lousy. I know that's, you might expect me to say that. But they were really, really poor. And again, I guess if you knew nothing at all about the topic, it would be okay. But so, don't know if my students do use it, but they told me, and they say it's lousy.
I think what schools...
Well, we have a student question over there, please.
I think what schools could do better in this regard is not only teach the available commercial AI services. Oh, whenever people say generative AI, they think ChatGPT. There are a number of free open source models that you can run locally on your devices, etc. Students should be given access to it, should be told about the diversity of technical options available, so you don't get stuck with one service or one provider.
We always talk about only asking ChatGPT to generate some kind of information, but we don't talk about uploading the information to ChatGPT to make him better. For instance, we can upload any file in it. For instance, if we upload the law guideline, there is written how to cite all the text where we getting the information. Like, we can teach the ChatGPT to make the information true instead of just asking it to tell us.
You are an optimist, then, that
yes,
they can teach.
I wanted to say that we can give to ChatGPT the right instructions to do something, not just like asking it to do something that we even don't know by ourselves.
Okay.
I think it's a very good question.
It wasn't a question, it was a comment, right?
It was a question.
It was a question.
The question is why we always talk about the prompts and asking, but not teaching the ChatGPT.
The simple answer is that you can't teach ChatGPT anything. The reason is that the models are pre-trained. You, as an end user, interact with a pre-trained model. It doesn't learn from your outputs in real time. Whenever OpenAI advertises that they released a new model, like ChatGPT-O, for example, recently, that's a pre-trained model. It doesn't react or learn from your prompts or your input. What OpenAI and other AI companies can do is they can collect user prompts and they can collect usage histories, etc., and use that to train the next iteration, the next version of the model. But the model doesn't learn in real time. This is why, if you've paid attention, for example, OpenAI says about each new version of their model that the information it's been trained on is up to a certain date. So if you ask it about stuff that happened after a certain date, it has no answer. You can tell it what it was, and it'll hallucinate an answer, but it won't learn from your input. So the models are sort of finished and done by the time you, the end user, get to interact with them. And then you have to wait until they train a new model on newer data, and then maybe whatever it is that you wanted to find there is in the training data and the model knows about it. But it doesn't learn in real time.
But why we don't talk about the opportunity to upload files into ChatGPT?
You upload files to ChatGPT, and what it does is it can summarize them by predicting what would likely be the next word or phrase in a sequence of words or phrases. But again, it doesn't, the file you upload is not integrated into the model or into the training data. It doesn't work that way.
Thank you.
All of us who have been professors, we kind of sense what the audience wants. And now I sense that the audience wants, I give the final word for question to Roger, right? You wanted to have a comment, and then we proceed to the ending.
Okay.
Please, go ahead.
I got it.
Well, thanks very much. I didn't want to keep people back, but yeah, two things. First of all, just following up on what you were asking about the use of ChatGPT by students. And I apologize here for a bit of product placement, but I edit a journal called Law, Innovation and Technology. And in the current issue, there is what I think is the most comprehensive study from Australia, conducted on how students do using or not using ChatGPT, in this case in a criminal law examination, and how well examiners, a panel of examiners, do in identifying which of the scripts were written by human students and which by ChatGPT. It's a pretty serious attempt to try to understand what I think what a lot of us intuitively feel about this, which is William says, is that if you ask the tool to answer a question which requires a very simple, basic level description of something, it will do fine. But once you get it into analysis of more complex legal problems or critical thinking, then that's a different story. And I think this study confirms at this stage that is the case largely. But also, the way in which the particular prompts that are used on the tool is a very important element in this too, and whether that makes a difference, you know, how the AI performs there. So I don't know if you're interested. I mean, I think this is probably an open access article, but it's one of several. I mean, we've had many submissions coming in now, and I know of other places where a lot of people will be publishing stuff like this. But I wonder if I got the final word from yeah, the final word is, look, I've been thinking about law and technology and the end of law for a long time. And one thing that struck me is that particular technologies come into the spotlight and then go out of it. So I started with biotech and, you know, information tech. We've had neuroscience and nano and whatnot. I predict that AI will not be in the spotlight forever. Well, certainly not forever, but maybe not for as long as we expect. And that there'll be breakthroughs in other technologies, particularly where AI has been used in conjunction with these technologies. So the neuroscience presentation we had earlier on today, neuroscience plus AI, there's some very interesting things that may go on there, but also in biotech too. You know, the cost of sequencing the human genome has come way, way down. And although a lot of it's not interpretable in a way we want to try and understand how genes link to particular disorders or query behavior, if AI is let loose on huge databases of genetic material, it might be able to find correlations there that are then significant in terms of social control. And William's correct, I think, one-liner on what's the difference between the paradigm of technological management and the legal paradigm, which is that, well, really in technological management, we're not at all interested in agents and their agency. But it could be that agents do become the target once again, where through these breakthroughs in convergent technologies, we're able to program individuals to act in particular ways, or in a neuroscientific way, stimulate and prompt their actions. And without it, you're realizing it's happening through the interactions you have with these in virtual environments. You know, the metaverse is children in the metaverse. I mean, there's a case maybe for where you might think technological paternalism has got something going for it. But I think, if we were to convene again in 20 years' time and talk about the death of law, it might be that other technologies are seen as being the real threat, and it might be that the threat is right there in the way that these technologies shape our conduct. In a way that we've internalized. It's not like I'm saying in Law 3.0 that we find ourselves in environments where the tech is embedded and guides our channels and constrains our conduct. This will be a world where the tech is embedded in us. And that would be the death of law. And that would, I mean, this would be the worst dystopia I think you could imagine.
We have the absolute final question, yes, for a student, I suppose.
Based on Professor Brownsworth's prediction of AI dying out, what is the panelists' idea? Do you agree with the professor that it will die out, or will AI become all-encompassing in the next century?
Okay, quick answers. We start from you, Oliver.
I don't think it's going anywhere. The hype cycle will die down. The bubble will likely burst. I mean, you could look at the current AI marketing bubble like the NFT marketing bubble before that, or the blockchain marketing bubble, or the craze around CRISPR and other kinds of technologies before that. The technologies are still here. They're being actively used for both beneficial and nefarious purposes. They're not in the media spotlight anymore because, well, investors lost their money, they've moved elsewhere, and the media interest is shifted elsewhere as well. And I think AI will be increasingly embedded in devices and applications. And to second to what the professor just said, I think that the issues that I raised in my talk about software freedom and open software and free software will become especially pressing when you have more and more internet-connected implants and medical devices on people. We already have cases where people with, say, stimulators, heart stimulators, are facing the end of life for their devices because the companies manufacturing the software have gone bankrupt, and since it's closed source software, they can't update the firmware themselves. So they're facing heart attack risks, basically. And if you put AI in the mix, that's going to make things even worse, both from an IP perspective and from a user freedom perspective. So I think the technology won't go anywhere. It'll become more invisible, sort of part of the invisible technological background, like Wi-Fi or the internet. You won't, in many cases, even now, you don't even know that you're interacting with a machine learning algorithm. You just take it for granted that your Facebook feed or your TikTok feed is populated automatically. That's a machine learning algorithm. You don't think about it, but it's there. And I think that's what the future of AI will look like, ultimately.
Okay. Thank you. Having said all of that, it is now my privilege to ask two gentlemen without whom the conference would not have been possible. Yay. To come to the closing words. Indrek Kauberg, Massimo Latorre, please.
Yeah, come on.
Dear friends, colleagues, Massimo promised to give a toast on a dinner, so we split the obligations. I actually prepared a closing speech for 1.5 hours, but I think I skipped that. So, because it's Friday night, like Professor Susi already told, and well, it has been absolutely great event, and academically, I feel that we have raised a lot of questions, but also I think we have gave also a lot of answers. And I'm very happy that it's not only that we have brought here lawyers, but we also have philosophers, neuroscientists, even psychologists. And this interdisciplinary approach is very important if we're speaking about the technology. If we're speaking about how it influences the law, society, the legal systems, our mindsets, how we actually act in the society, what will be the future of our agency, and so on. But I think it's very important for the conference also that what has happened now here, within 2 days, it will be also scientifically published in a book. So what we always try to do, together with Professor Latorre and all the institute, is to gather all the materials, presentations, articles. It's not very easy. It's quite difficult job, as you all probably know, who have organized such kind of events, but we try. And for now, I ask everybody who have given their presentations to prepare the papers and send it to us, so we can start looking for the publishing house to make the book out of it, to produce the book out of it. I would also like to thank our supporting team. We have Kadri here, who is the head of the support team. So I would like to make an applause, please. Yes. And of course, the whole event would not be happening if we wouldn't have Eva in the support team. There is also, with such kind of events, the publicity is very important. And to be honest, we always worry a bit that if we ask very distinguished academicians to come here, so that the auditorium will not be empty. And I think we have succeeded with this, because within these 2 days, I can see a lot of students here. So thank you, students, for your participation. It's very important for us. And also for the publicity, we have a publicity team in the university. And I think MAN has made a absolutely perfect job to make this event public. So thank you, MAN, as well. And our technicians who work actually behind the screen there, they have actually made it, well, the lights are here, you can see the screens, sound, everything is perfect. So thank you. We have a photographer here also, yeah, making pictures. So I don't know if they are already uploaded and redesigned by AI as well, but okay, good. So in social media, we have our social media post as well. So thank you, and of course, thank you all the academicians distinguished academicians from abroad, from Estonia. I think it has been a great event. I truly hope that we can continue with this format. We started with that already 2017, so it's now basically 7 years. I think continues a series of very interesting academic discussions. So I truly hope that we will proceed with that, and I hope you see here back again in the near future. Thank you. Thank you all.